Hey, folks, it's Greg Trainer from the Accessible Hunter podcast, along with my co host, Mike Hudson. And we got a really good program for you guys today. We're going to be talking with Taylor Truluck down in Georgia. But first, hey, Mike, what's going on this morning?
You doing over in PA? We're doing decent in South Carolina. We finally got some rain setting in. Been a little dry after all the hurricanes. We haven't had much storm since then, but um, getting a little bit of rain now, which is a good thing.
We had a little bit of rain over the weekend. And then yesterday, my wife took a half day off work and we headed down to the farmhouse to do some hunting. It was about, I don't know, 60 degrees and sunshine. And when we pulled in, I ran two deer out of the orchard at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So they were in there early, and I ended up getting skunked, but it was a nice night to be out. It was nice warm weather. Now, today, I think it's 60 degrees and dropping down into the 30s, and the snow is finally going to start here in Pennsylvania. So we lucked out and had good weather as long as we can. It's November 20th. So it's about time for snow in PA.
It is definitely unseasonably warm.
Definitely. Taylor, now you're down south too. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from and as much as you're comfortable with?
Hey, yes, sir. So I'm down in Charlton County, Georgia, right kind of actually on the Florida-Georgia line. So I have muscular dystrophy. It's just me and my husband, and we live out in the entrance of the Okefenokee Wildlife Refuge. So it's pretty quiet, serene, lots of wildlife coming through. But with my disabilities, it kind of makes getting outdoors a little bit challenging at times. So I have what's called central core myopathy. It's a RYR1 myopathy. It's pretty rare. I think there's only ever been 5,000 people in the U.S. diagnosed with it. But thankfully, it's a pretty slow progressing disease. So I am still a little bit mobile. I can stand and walk short distances like within my home. But I do rely like on a power chair if I'm outside or if I go into places like Walmart or the grocery store, wherever. Um, but life's pretty good. It's me and my dogs, and we try to be as active as we can. So
It's just part of life with a disability. We push as much as we can, as hard as we can. It's all about finding new ways to get back out. So, that's one of the exciting things, Taylor, for having you on today is just hearing how, regardless of whatever's going on, you're still pushing.
yes, sir. Yep, got to.
That's the only way to be. And Taylor, Mike and I are pretty active on Facebook, and that's how we kind of ran into your post. You recently had a huge hunt, and
Yeah.
from what I understand, you're a first time hunter. But you want to tell us what brought you on the podcast today, because we were so impressed with everything.
So life is short, and it's hunting is just something I always wanted to do. I didn't think it was something I could do. But I had posted in one of the Georgia hunting groups, just trying to see which WMAs might be the most accessible because at this point I didn't know anybody with private land. I didn't feel comfortable hunting off of our land because of houses being close by. And we had went to one of the local WMAs, and I found some disability spots, and I was like, wow, this looks like something I might could get out to do. It might be a little bit challenging, but maybe we could try. But I've never hunted before, and so I didn't want to just jump into it without somebody who has prior experience. So I had posted in the group and asked, to try to connect with some people who might would be willing to come out and help us at those locations. And I got a lot of offers of, oh, we'll take you hunting here, and everywhere was way up north Georgia. But then a guy named Brian Vickery with Georgia DNR reached out privately, and he said, hey, call me. And so I called him, and he told me about the Georgia program. It started by Governor Kemp. It's called Outdoors Beyond Barriers, and it's an initiative to get people just like me out into these public spaces and provide them with the adaptive equipment that they need to be able to successfully hunt. And so I thought I had heard about it. I didn't get to look into it too far before because I had already missed the deadlines for applications long time ago. but they did 7 of them hunts this year, and they managed to fit me in up on Clybelt WMA, in I think it's called Mansfield, Georgia.
Yep.
And so we just went up there, and I was very, very impressed by what they do. It was an awesome program.
Me and Greg have been hurt a long time, and
Yes, sir.
um, it's it's one of those things. It's amazing to see how times are changing and how
Mhm.
many people are starting to push for it. Being a hunter that comes down to Georgia a lot and being able to have met Governor Kemp, it's exciting to see how much they are pushing to
Yeah,
have more as the ready. It's something that Greg and I have said before on this podcast and elsewhere. It's not asking for a handout. It's asking for a hand up. And Taylor, you hit the nail on the head. It's about getting back outdoors, but not knowing exactly what we need or how we need.
right,
And if we could do it all by ourselves, we wouldn't ask for help, right?
right.
Um, but it's one of those things. We were excited after seeing everything you did, and especially being successful in your hunt.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Getting back outdoors, and I'm not going to highlight on this one, but just getting back outdoors, and if we can fool a deer, uh, especially with these big, smelly, noisy, clunky power chairs,
Yeah.
that to me is a win. But
Uh,
tell us a little bit about the harvest, because I knew you were successful. So
yeah, I felt like I got very lucky. Definitely very blessed. We had so they actually have wheelchair accessible gun like shooting houses. So we were able to roll the big track chair up into it, and I got propped up, and they had set me up with a rifle rest because I have upper arm, mobility. I guess I should say weakness. So anyways, they had me with the rifle rest in there, and we hadn't seen anything. It was so quiet, and we had about 15 minutes left of light. And the funny thing is that I was telling Greg they they had a camera guy following us, and he opened his bag to change the batteries out, and it was so loud we all thought, oh, they were definitely not going to see anything this evening. But he did, because within a few moments of that, there was just suddenly a deer in front of me. I stuck its head out of the bushes, looked around, stepped out, turned broadside, and before I really had time to, I took the shot because I was like, that couldn't have played out more perfectly. And down immediately. That was awesome.
it was
it
all
was
about
Yeah.
timing.
it
Deer was
was
camera shy, and they're waiting on a battery swap. I mean, you
it,
can't you
Uh,
can't fake that stuff.
it
yeah.
was it was meant to be. I off camera I was telling Taylor yesterday that I had to cough 15 minutes before the end of my hunt. Prime time, the bucks and does are starting to move right at dusk, and I've been trying not to cough for 45 minutes, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. And she told me the camera story of switching out the batteries and the Velcro, but I thought that was just so funny. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And sometimes things are just meant to be.
Yeah.
That deer was in the right spot for you at the right time, and you made a great shot on it, and now we're able to harvest it and put your tag on it. And if people don't realize, I mean, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, they provided all this equipment. It's specialized. No matter what your disability, they're able to accommodate you and not only get you out there, but have you an opportunity to take a deer. You got to see animals. Now, did anyone else in the group harvest an animal on this hunt, Taylor?
Yeah. So actually on the first night there were, I think, 3 that were checked in. It was 2 bucks and a doe. And the DNR guys were great about helping everybody dress and quarter them out. They showed us exactly how to do it, and it was awesome. And they said that was a lot better than previous hunts at this specific WMA because it had been pretty quiet. But no, and I don't know if other people. So on the second day, I actually had to leave early. I few health issues, but I had to go after the morning hunt, and so I don't know. They may have hunted. They may have harvested a few more.
That was one of the things that when I talked to Governor Kemp, we're trying to get some stuff where South Carolina and Georgia, North Carolina, and neighboring states can kind of coexist. And you brought up something, Taylor, and this is what we tried to explain to those guys before. is travel, hunt, disabilities, all of that. When you add those things together, there's a lot of moving parts.
Good.
And we never know from day to day, sometimes hour to hour, how we're gonna feel.
Yeah.
And I've got a heart. I know Greg does. All we want to do is get people back outdoors. And a lot of times we'll set up hunts or go to hunts ourselves, and then body just will not work with us. And it's one of those things we want to tell the public, we want to tell the governor, we want to tell the state, thank you very much for all your hard work. We're not shucking out because of anything other than the spirit's willing, but sometimes our bodies just fight with us.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and having multiple days hunting, it just compounds the issue too. So,
Right.
we always like to say your first sit's your best sit. You're excited. You're feeling the best that you can. After 2 or 3 days in the ground blind and getting up early and hunting maybe longer than you normally are active, it can definitely take its toll. But you do what you can when you can, and
Yep.
it paid off for you. Um,
It,
Taylor, I know here in Pennsylvania, we have a program called Hunters Sharing the Harvest, where anybody can donate a deer, a white-tailed deer, either a buck or a doe. They take it to a processor and everything's paid for. And then that meat gets packaged up and goes to people in need, whether it's, soup kitchens or pantries or individuals. Does Georgia have a program like that? And did you guys take advantage of that on the hunt, or what did you do then with your meat?
I believe we do. I think it's called Hunters for the Hungry. We didn't do anything in regards to that program at this specific hunt, but I have heard of it, and I'm not sure how prevalent it is in the area that I'm at, though.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
but
It's one of those things we'll try to link up and see if there's more down that way and if they're doing donations. I'm just excited. So I got a question for you since that was your first deer.
yeah.
How hard did the bug hit? Are you prepping for more hunting? What's the next steps?
I would love to go again. I don't think I'm ready to go out unassisted on my own. I think that was a wild dream that I had in my head. Because it is a very involved process, especially if you are successful and you have one to take home. My husband and I, we did take the quartered meat and I processed it help at home. But had I taken two deer, I would have needed an extra hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, Taylor, would you have any interest in hunting other species, say, for instance, turkey? Because I know Mike does a lot down south with the KT team, and those boys, they know turkeys like nobody's business. I'm sure they would love to get you out on a spring turkey hunt.
oh, that would be fun. That would be very fun. Yeah, no, I'd definitely be interested in it, and just learning the different, uh, like to me, this is so interesting. Like I love the fact that it's the so I was very active in FFA in high school, and the farm to food to table, like all of that, like knowing that yes, you're taking a life, but you are putting that meat to good use, and you know that it is healthy, like wild game. I love all of that. It's a
That's
very
just the nature of the beast, that people don't realize where their food comes from. You do. That's the difference. We do it and we try to harvest ethically. But bigger than that, Taylor, don't lose, and this is just me giving you some advice as an older guy that's been doing it. Don't lose that passion for wanting to do more of it independently.
yeah,
That's not a bad thing.
no,
Wanting to get out and go solo hunting as a
yeah,
quadriplegic, I love it some days when it's just me and nature.
yeah,
So don't lose that passion for trying to find every piece of equipment you can to make you more successful, but also give you that independence to go solo. You'll love it. It's
yeah.
just one of those things you got to learn every aspect of it because we have to do it safely.
Right, right. And there is a lot to it. I mean, just at this time, I didn't realize just how many pieces of equipment are available to us to be able to use. And so I think because I'm still in the very beginning of the learning process, trying to figure out, okay, this did work for me here, and how can I get a hold of this a piece of equipment to have on my own, and where to use it. I'm not quite at the confidence level to go out on my own yet, but I eventually would like to be, you know.
and it's really great that you were able to research all of this on the net,
Yeah.
put out a request that, hey, I would like to do this. You
Yeah.
had somebody, contact you right away and say, here's what we can do to help you. You followed through with it. You
Yeah.
went out, you shot in your rifle, you got physically and mentally ready to take an animal. You and I think your aunt traveled up for the hunt.
Yes,
So,
sir.
you had a multi-day event planned. I mean, you did everything right, and it all came back to you with a successful hunt. That's the type of success story that Mike and I love to hear. It doesn't always work out with a field tag, but that doesn't make the memories and the experience any less.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is the Outdoor Beyond Barriers program. The way they had us set up was perfect. They fed us. They had us come in the night before. They let us stay in their lodge. So I was able to like get rest before we had to actually get up. So it wasn't like I was driving 5 hours and then going hunting.
Right.
So it was a really, really good opportunity to be able to do things, with my conditions.
I think Georgia does one of the best programs, with Chip Madron and his mom and the people around him. They
Yeah.
really understand disability well. And I mean, Mike, you go on a lot of different hunts and you know the different aspects of it. But when you have somebody running the program or at least involved in the program with a significant disability, they get it. I think it makes it a little bit easier. What do you think about that, Mike?
It goes back to things we've talked about in the past, man. In order for people without disabilities to truly understand it, somebody in their leadership paradigm has to reach out to somebody with a disability. That's just the unfortunate. Taylor's hit it. You've said it. I know we've covered it on the podcast in the back. Until you're in it, you just don't know what all the needs are. And even after almost 30 years with my disability, I don't know all the needs that are out there. But that's what's beautiful about this podcast and the way that we all work as a community is being able to reach out, figure out what new equipment is out there, what kind of technology works best for each individual. And Greg, man, we've covered this before. Taylor, you just said it. It's about individualistic hunting. What I use is a little different than what Greg uses, and it's going to be a little bit different than what you use, and it can come from the same company. We just personalize it. Each person wants to pull the trigger just a little different, but that's what's beautiful about disabilities as well. Me and Greg are quadriplegics. We're pretty close to the same break level. Doesn't matter. You put 10 quads in a room, you're going to have 10 different injuries because we all see things different. And, Taylor, you hit the nail on the head again. It's about camaraderie. It's about getting out. It's about being able to share the harvest, share the stories, but also share a little bit of each other's pain. At least, branch out and to make um, new partners, new friends. And I'm sure you've met people that you'll stay in touch with. That's an amazing thing. Hunting's not just about the harvest.
No, for sure. And and that was one of the great things about how OBB had their hunt set up because they offered to do like a bonfire for us and every
Right.
times we all got to sit around and talk about our hunts of the day. It was pretty great. And meeting people from all over the state too. It's not just people that are local. People traveled for this, you know.
And Taylor, it's an opportunity to try different equipment, see what other people are using, what
Yeah.
works for them, what may work for you in your situation. Because let's face it, equipment is expensive. And if you get to try it and find out, hey, this works for me, this is exactly what I want to use, that makes that purchase so much more confident that, hey, I'm going to be successful with this equipment. Um, Taylor, what was one of the big surprises on the hunt? What surprised you the most that you want to tell people about?
Hmm. I think um it was that moment after I shot the deer. Everyone, it sounded like a football game going off in there. Everybody was cheering. They were so excited but then there was that transitional moment of I just took a life. And it wasn't sad, but it was a very humbling kind of gratitude that came forward. And that strong emotion that came with a successful harvest. Definitely very thankful for it. and the meat will go to, good use. I mean, we're already eating on it. But, I guess people had told me, don't be surprised if you'll feel a certain way. And I love animals, and, I knew that this is all part of it, but I think that is what until you experience it, you're not gonna, like, you can be told about it all day long, but it's totally different when it's you. So,
That's the thing. Be ethical. We are taking a life.
yeah,
But man, it's beautiful to see. Again, Taylor, giving you more and more kudos. Everything you're saying is exactly what we try to reiterate over and over again. It is a community of people just getting on with life, but to see the newer generations, newer people coming alongside, um, and giving thanks.
yeah,
It is an opportunity for us to get out and harvest and be successful, but we
yeah,
do need to be mindful of what we're actually doing. Um, and so thank you for saying such.
That was the best way to say it, Taylor. Mike and I have been hunting, 30 years, and it's always a joyful experience when we take that shot, whenever we release that arrow. But then there's a little twinge of sadness, and we have to pay respect. And I know I always take a moment after that shot, whenever I'm rolling up to the animal, and be thankful that we're going to use the meat, and that's going to provide sustenance for my family over the year. But
yeah,
it's something that if you're not a hunter, you don't have that experience. And once you do, it changes you, and it changes you forever.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's it's something that, like you said, non-hunters don't completely understand. And I think it's important to touch on that, because there are people who aren't from hunting families, who have no hunting background, and they hear of all these hunting stories, but they don't quite understand the connection that there is with the hunter and the animal that they've taken, and the respect that's given, to that life, to put food on the table. So,
That's the
Man,
whole crux behind conservation itself.
absolutely.
Nobody understands how much work goes in before you just go into a blind.
Yeah.
Uh, how much is in food plots and setting it up, and how much we actually take care of the animals, and we know the animals better than the majority of society. And it's not just about killing. That's the part that we have to. It's a humbling experience when you actually do take the harvest. But there's a lot more going into it, and just the amount of love that there is for these animals.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Taylor, I know that the hunting community has obviously welcomed you with open arms, and given you a very good first impression on what it's like to hunt with a disability. What would you like to see maybe a little bit better, or what advice could you give somebody, to make a hunt easier, or to make it more enjoyable, or what would you like to tell people about your hunt that you'd like to see that went well, maybe something that needs improvement on?
Well, I think that, first of all, this podcast is a great propeller of what I'm about to say. But I think that if more people knew that this was even an option for disabled folks, and that it was an available tool for them to use, I mean, when I posted, I thought for sure, okay, I definitely get some offers of private land, like, and kind-hearted people wanting to help me get out. But I never thought that DNR, that the state would host such a thing to be able to get disabled people out there, and not only get them out there, provide this equipment that is invaluable because it enables us to successfully harvest animals. So programs like that definitely need to be brought a little bit more into the limelight and talked about. And because if they're not talked about, they're not funded, it's not available to use. And so I think bringing attention to it is a great start for sure. It's definitely a tool that I'm grateful to have had, because, like I said, never in a million years would I have thought that I'd been able to go on a hunt like this, but I did, and it was an awesome experience. So,
Here's the challenging part for you, Taylor. You've gotten started in it. I'm gonna challenge you to keep up the advocacy part of it.
yeah,
That's the biggest part of it. That's the beautiful thing is Greg's allowed me to co-host on this thing for a while, and it's all about the guest. It's all about their experiences, You share a lot about it, but it is about advocacy. We can't do this without letting people know that there are projects, there are opportunities, but there's needs out there. And it's our responsibility now to make those things bigger and better for the people coming up beside us and behind us. So
Agreed. Yeah.
keep pushing them, Taylor. If you can come up with new ideas, get more WMA, get more groups going in your area and otherwise, and we'll just keep pushing. We're not going to let you go. We're going to keep on going with it. But do you have anything coming up in the future? Have you already pre-planned some more, or what's your thoughts?
Right now I don't have anything scheduled. I kind of felt like I was very blessed to have this opportunity and this late in the season, and that it probably will have to wait until next year, unless by happenstance I found another opportunity. But I am just really grateful that I was able to go on this hunt with OBB, and that was my one of my bucket list items, was be able to say that I've been hunting and I was able to harvest my own deer. But I do want to go again. um, but it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. So
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the podcast with Mike and I today and sharing your incredible story, but even more than that, your incredible attitude and how you manufactured all of this yourself. You had a bucket list item, you
yeah.
went for it, and by God, you got it. So we're so proud of you. When we seen your pictures online, I said to Mike, we have to get her on the podcast. I definitely want to talk to her. And you did not disappoint us. So thank you for everything you did and for sharing your story with us. It made my day, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, thank you for all you guys do. This podcast is an awesome podcast, awesome channel. So you guys are doing some good work.